What if I told you there was one single, very simple equation that could predict the future of humanity? This is an equation that everybody can understand, for it only implies a multiplication of 4 simple terms. Enter Kaya's equation. Yoichi Kaya was born in Japan in 1942 during the Second World War. Graduated from the prestigious University of Tokyo in engineering and has played a vital role in shaping Japan's energy and environmental policy. He then went to take some of Japan's most influential positions, including serving as the president of the Research Institute of Innovative Technology for the Earth and the director of the Integrated Research System for Sustainability Science at the University of Tokyo. But the explosive growth in terms of population and GDP got him thinking, is this growth going to go on forever? And that is how he came up with his famous identity, Kaya's identity. Here's how he came up with the equation. We know that CO2 levels are equal to CO2 levels. This is not rocket science. Now multiply and divide the term on the right by energy demand, GDP, and population, and you get Kaya's equation. But how does this equation predict the future of humanity? Let's go over each terms on the right to understand how. The ratio of GDP by the population is called the GDP per capita. It quantifies how much value each human adds to the world on average. That is, by producing goods, transporting merchandise, or by offering services. Energy demand over GDP is the energy efficiency of the economy. How much energy is required to produce smartphones, cars, and to build houses? Now, CO2 over energy demand is how clean our energy production is. For instance, this number is near 0 for a nuclear power plant that does not emit carbon dioxide, but is much higher for a coal power plant. Energy demand over GDP is how efficient your engineers are at producing things. And finally, population is, well, the number of people living on the planet. To understand how this identity shapes the future of humanity, we need to understand how each of these 4 terms are going to change. According to the Paris Agreements, temperature rise must be kept well below 2 degrees Celsius, meaning that CO2 gases need to be divided by 3 compared to today's levels. So if we come back to Kaya's equation, that means that we have to divide the term on the left by 3. But that also implies that we have to divide the 4 terms on the right by 3. But concretely, what does that mean? Let's take the first term. Most of today's energy production comes from fossil fuel that produce a huge amount of greenhouse gas, and clean energy such as nuclear only plays a minor role in the energy production. In the past 40 years, we managed to decrease the carbon footprint of our energy production by 10%, and those 10% are all the hydroelectric dams, the nuclear power plants, and the solar and wind we build on planet Earth. So let's be highly optimistic and let's suppose that the carbon footprint will be decreased by 10% by 2050. We still need to divide the 3 other terms by 2.7. If we take the second term, energy efficiency, this is a task for future engineers. How to produce goods with less energy input. For the past 35 years, we've managed to reduce the energy required by 30% for 1 GDP point, thanks to the oil crisis that forced many industries to optimize their energy consumption when manufacturing goods. Once again, let's be highly optimistic and say that the energy efficiency is so that the energy needed for 1 point of GDP is 20% lower by 2050. We arrive at the conclusion that the 2 last terms must be divided by 2. And now multiple scenarios present themselves. According to many studies, the world population is going to be 10 billion by 2050, meaning that we will have to divide the GDP per capita by 2.5. What does that mean? Not everybody will have access to premium goods such as vehicle, housing, or gaming consoles. Inequality will widen even more between the haves and the have-not. The second scenario is that we keep the same standard of living, but the world population need to be divided by 2. Today, the mortality rate is around 7%. So, to halve the number of people on the earth, this means wars and disasters will inevitably happen to reduce the world's population. All things considered, you may tell me that we won't get to such drastic measures if we don't respect the Paris Agreement, but you will be wrong. A temperature rise of 3 degrees by 2050 would mean higher sea levels, more drought, more natural disasters that are going to impact hundreds of millions of people. And even though we don't want to respect those agreements, our fossil fuel reserves are depleting. And that's why the car industry has turned to electric. And that is why we are in the middle of this huge energy transition that ensures that we will still be able to live in 2050 like we do today. If you're interested in the reasoning behind why we are running out of fossil fuel, I highly recommend you check out Jean-Marc Jankovicci's channel. He's a French YouTuber that has been fighting for decades for people to see the real impacts of climate change. Please find a link to his channel below. If you want topics for me to cover, don't hesitate to put them in the comments. And if you appreciate this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos in the near future.